Asa Brown is absent. Would you like me to read the introduction?
I would like you to read the introduction, please.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming to tonight's District 15 Community Education Council meeting. We appreciate your time and we're glad you could join us. For those of you who are new to CEC meetings, there are 32 CECs throughout the city, plus 4 citywide councils. Each CEC represents a community school district, and each is made up of 11 volunteer members, 9 of whom are elected by parents in the district. The remaining members are appointed by the Brooklyn Borough President. We also have 1 high school student member. CEC 15 is a state mandated public body responsible for ensuring that public school parents and the public have input in educational decisions that are made at the school district level. Our council reviews education policies and advocates for high quality education that benefit all of our District 15 public elementary and middle school students. CEC 15 serves 35 elementary and middle schools and 1 high school under the oversight of our superintendent. CEC members serve in an advisory role on education matters to the district superintendent, the chancellor of the Department of Education, and to state and elected officials. We approve district school zoning lines submitted by the Department of Ed. We evaluate our district superintendent. We review the district's educational programs, and we support school leadership teams. We also submit recommendations for the school construction authority's annual capital plan, which we will be reviewing later tonight. As of recent amendments to the law, CECs also advise in the selection of parent coordinators. We actively seek input and feedback from the public and encourage you to visit our website, cecd15.org. Take a look at our Facebook page, connect with us on Twitter, and write to us about any issue you may want to address or learn about. Each school has a CEC liaison. All of our names and contact info are available on our website. I'm going to put a reminder to sign our attendance sheet in the chat for those of you who are attending via Zoom. And I'm also going to turn it over now to the interpreters to introduce themselves on Zoom.
Hi, good evening. The following message will be said in Spanish. Buenas noches a todos. Hoy Marisela junto a Julieta García estaremos ofreciendo servicios de interpretación en español. Por favor, marque al 347-966-4114. Ingrese el número de conferencia 202-247-412, símbolo numeral. Si desea escuchar audio en español, pero desea permanecer en esta sala de conferencias con Zoom, para poder ver la reunión usando su computadora, silencie su computadora y el volumen y marque de su teléfono a la línea de conferencia en español, que es 347-966-4114. Ingrese el número de conferencia 202-247-4112, símbolo numeral. Gracias. Thank you.
The following announcement will be in বাংলা। আপনারা যদি বাংলায় আলোচনা সভাটি শুনতে চান তাহলে যে নম্বরে ফোন দিতে হবে সেটি হচ্ছে 347-966-4114 এবং যে পিন নাম্বারটি দিতে হবে সেটি হচ্ছে 322-120-404 এবং কি পাউন্ডকে চাপতে হবে। আমি আবারও বলছি যে নাম্বারটিতে ফোন দিতে হবে সেটি হচ্ছে 347-966-4114 এবং যে পিন নাম্বারটি দিতে হবে সেটি হচ্ছে 322-120-404 এবং কি পাউন্ডকে চাপতে হবে। আপনারা যদি এই আলোচনা সভাটি শুনতে চান এবং ভিডিওর মাধ্যমে দেখতে চান, তাহলে যে কাজটি করতে হবে, আপনার কম্পিউটারে যে ভলিউমটি রয়েছে সেটি সবসময় বন্ধ রাখতে হবে। যখন আপনি কথা বলতে চাইবেন তখন যে নাম্বারে ফোন দিবেন সেটি হচ্ছে 347-966-4114 এবং যে পিন নাম্বারটি দিতে হবে সেটি হচ্ছে 322-120-404 এবং একটি পাউন্ড কি চাপতে হবে। ধন্যবাদ। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Hello, this is Chinese interpreter, the Mandarin translator. My name is Max. Max Chen. I will speak Mandarin. Make announcement. OK， 各位今天与会的贵宾家长大家好。我们今天有普通话翻译，电话是13479664114，ID 密码是841379450450，井字号。再重复一遍，我们今天有普通话的专线翻译，13479664114，ID 密码为841379450450，井字号。请各位打入这个普通话专线的所有贵宾的家长，请务必把你的麦克风给关静音，以免背景嘈杂造成翻译专业人的一些困扰。OK， 感谢您 ，Thank you。
Thank you so much. And I want to point out that we are live at PS 516 in Sunset Park and of course on Zoom as well. And anyone who's in the room, we would ask you to please sign the attendance sheet on that side of the room. And I also want to note that TSL Steve has arrived. And now I'll pass it to Vanessa Iwoka Gonzalez with the public comment protocol.
Thank you. The state of emergency for COVID-19 expired on September 12th of 2022. Governor Kathy Hochul did not extend the Executive Order 11.9, which allowed virtual access to public meetings under New York State Open Meetings Law. And as a result, city and community education councils will not be able to fully remote hearings, but they may choose to hold hybrid meetings provided certain requirements are satisfied. Tonight's meeting is taking place in person, but will include a public comment period. We will take both remote and in-person comments to gather additional feedback from our families and school community members. You may have your camera on, or for your own privacy, if you prefer, you may use audio only during your comment period and throughout the meeting. The rules of engagement are that when you're commenting, please respect the privacy of others. Please do not include the names of children or staff. Guests who make inappropriate comments will be removed from the meeting. During the public comment period, those that are attending virtually can raise their hands to comment and indicate in the chat that they would like to speak. Those called upon will be unmuted. If you are attending in person, you must sign the guest attendance sheet and indicate whether you would like to comment. Speakers will be called on one at a time and will be allowed 1 minute for each comment. We'll hear as many speakers in the time as the time allows. It is possible that not every comment or question will be given time, so please make sure that you know how to ask your question. We'll try to answer your question, and you can always write to the CEC at cec15@schools.nyc.gov.
Thank you, Vanessa. And now,
I'd like to make a motion to just amend the agenda. There's been some changes since we wrote this agenda. And I just want to point out that Manuel Pica from the District 79 office won't be in attendance tonight. So his time, we can add to ODP, and we can give the Office of District Planning maybe like 10 minutes and then 15 minutes each for public or CEC member comments. Does anybody object to that amendment to the agenda?
Second.
Okay, I don't think we need to do a roll call vote. We can just do it by, if there's no objections, we can just make the amendment. Okay,
Okay,
great.
So next on our agenda is Office of District Planning. But it's okay.
Hi, Tori, how are you?
Tori.
Well, see, we have to speak into this. This is the best way for the public to hear you. I mean, I think so. I mean, like, it picks up, you can wander around sort of this, like, it'll pick up, like, you know, a good 10 feet from the, so you can wander. You don't have
Do
to
you
be
want,
like,
or you can,
you can sit back here with us, but, you know, come on in. Make yourself cozy.
Okay, thanks. Okay, but I can stay here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great.
so Tori Fenton from Office of District Planning, we are seeking public feedback on proposed re-sightings of PS 896 and PS 56/PS 516.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, CEC 15, for having me. My name is Tori Fenton. As they shared, I am from the DOE's Office of District Planning. Our office partners very closely with councils, with superintendents, and with schools to support any changes to how a school building is used. And in District 15, we have several ideas that we have been pursuing in collaboration with CEC 15 and with Superintendent Alvarez. So the first is a proposal that impacts the school community at PS 896. This proposal has been posted publicly and it is on the schedule to be voted on by the panel for educational policy next week. This proposal would recite the upper grades of PS 896 from their current building to a newly constructed DOE building that is just a couple blocks away. So their lower grades would remain in their current building, and grades 3 to 5 would be recited to the new building beginning in the 23-24 school year. We had a joint public hearing on this proposal last week, and as I mentioned, it is going for a vote by the PEP next week. The second set of planning that we are considering in partnership with the PS 516 community right here and with Superintendent Alvarez is a set of potential proposals that we have considered in order to best meet the capacity that is coming online in the district and the enrollment and facilities needs that we are hearing from the community. This set of proposals would include the potential reciting of the lower grades of PS 516 from this current building where we are now to a newly constructed building that is planned to open across the street. That would begin potentially in the 23-24 school year as well. That would be subject to a vote by the panel for educational policy. And we are hoping to post those documents publicly before winter break. Concurrently, we are considering a proposal to open and temporarily co-locate a new district middle school here in PS 516's current building. That would be contingent on reciting the lower grades to the new building across the street, which would create space that would be available in this current building. The proposed new middle school would potentially open in the 24-25 school year. So there would be 1 year where PS 516 is, programming and implementing the partial reciting. And in the following year, a new district middle school would open and temporarily be co-located with the upper grades of PS 516 in this current building. And the plan would be to recite that new middle school in the future to another new building that is planned to open in the 2026-2027 school year. So it would be what we call an incubation, meaning the school would open in one location, gradually phase in its grades, and ultimately be recited to another location. We are, as I mentioned, planning for these proposals to be posted publicly before winter break, and they would go before a vote by the PEP in the new year. That is my summary of a lot of work that is happening in District 15, but I'm happy to take any questions or any comments.
Thank you so much.
Don't bother with that. We just have to use this. We have to choose one. It has to be one or the other.
At this point, we are going to take comments from CEC members. We are going to start with a roll call and see if Nana and the pool has any questions or comments.
No, I don't have.
Does Nancy Randall have any questions or comments?
No.
Does Antonia Ferraro?
Yeah, I do actually. Let me bring this back over here. So just run this by me again. So a potential new middle school that's going to temporarily co-locate in this building. The lower grades from 516 are going into the new building. The upper grades are staying here. And then a few years down the road, the middle school in its entirety would go to a new location, possibly Fort Hamilton.
Yes, that's right. And we would be clear that it would be a potential future reciting to that new building that is opening at 4002 Fort Hamilton Parkway.
And so would the upper grades, I guess 3, 4, and 5, always remain at 516?
That's a great question. So based on space and in order to maximize the use of the new building, we are actually planning for only grades 4 and 5 to remain in this building.
Okay.
So grades K to 3 and the pre-K program would move to the new building. 4 and 5 would remain in this building. And I think one of the advantages of a temporary co-location, so that middle school opening in the 2024 school year, staying for 2 years and moving to Fort Hamilton Parkway in 2026, pending construction, would be that it gives this community some time to consider enrollment trends, to think about what the needs are of PS 516. At this time, PS 516 cannot fit in its entirety based on current enrollment in the new building, but it is something we can consider in a few years, depending on how enrollment has settled in the district. In other words, once the new middle school is relocated or recited to its new building, we will kind of leading up to that 2026 school year, in collaboration with the superintendent, with PS 516 and with the council, consider, well, based on enrollment, could PS 516 now fit in its entirety in the new building? Has enrollment increased such that PS 516 needs continued or expanded use of both buildings? And to think if there is still available space in this current building, if there are other needs of the district that can be met here.
Thank you.
We have a question from Nancy Randall.
So I guess just to understand a little bit better, if in a few years, the question becomes, what is the, how will this building be utilized? What is the purpose? What is the purpose of everything, I guess, if in a few years it could potentially be an empty building? Like, what's the purpose of moving the students out of the building to then create an empty building?
I think, we have, over the past few months, we have engaged PS 516, the school leadership team. We've had 2 different community meetings, and we've heard from the participatory action research project that was happening in Sunset Park that there is a real need for PS 516 to have access to outdoor space and to play space. And that is an amenity that the new building offers, in addition to early childhood design classrooms. So there's a real benefit to this community to have access and to utilize space in the new building. I think it was more a question of, yes, we want space in the new building and those amenities. Can our entire school fit? And the answer is just no, based on enrollment. So I think these buildings were initially conceived and planned by the DOE and by the School Construction Authority to meet historical overcrowding in Sunset Park. And I think over recent years, with, you know, the political landscape, with the pandemic, we have seen a decline in enrollment such that, you know, the school does not need to utilize every classroom across both buildings, but that's something that could change.
Any other questions? I do have one question, or 2 rather. As far as the main concern that you voiced from community members on outdoor space, how are those needs going to be met in the interim as you make a transition outside of the building for the students that remain here?
All students of PS 516 will have access to both buildings. So 4th and 5th graders will have access to the play space and amenities of the new building. And I think I would look to the superintendent and the principal and the SLT on how they're programming that usage.
And my second question is about page 96. What are some of the concerns you've heard from the public hearings?
At the joint public hearing last week, and we will publish this in our public comment analysis before the PEP vote, we heard one question about, again, the use of amenities in the new building, specifically the music room. And I think Superintendent Alvarez responded, and the moment that all students of PS 896 will have access to the music room and other amenities in the new building. And again, up to the principal, the SLT, to determine exactly what that music programming will look like. We did not hear any other concerns at the joint public hearing.
With that, we're going to ask if anyone in the audience has any questions.
We're gonna take questions from the public in person first. Seeing no questions, we're going to move to our interpreting lines. Are there any questions?
In the Spanish line, there's no questions.
No questions.
This is the Mandarin interpreter speaking. There's no participant who want to ask question right now. I'm a Mandarin line.
Hello, this is Bangla interpreter. There is no question in Bangla line. Thank you.
No questions for Bangla. So not questions. We are going to move on with the next item in our agenda.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Next on our agenda is the SCA capital plan vote on the CEC 15 priority list. We will not be conducting a vote tonight, but we can discuss the priority list. I'll turn it over to Vanessa for public comment.
Estas son de. Why don't we read some of these out into public record?
Okay.
First, so that
That's a great idea.
everybody knows what we're dealing with here.
Okay.
Um,
And just to, for anyone who is joining us online or in person, and wants a little bit of background, the School Construction Authority determines, or rather is in charge of handling projects that need to be handled in terms of the physical building. And so the CEC puts together a list of priority projects for our district. And so we are escalating 5 specific needs of the schools in our district on this list. And so we need to put together essentially a list of where the needs are greatest in our district. And Antonia, I'll turn it over to you.
all right. Nana, are you looking at the list right now?
Yeah.
Do you want to just read yours
Yeah,
and then we'll just sort of go through it?
Thank you. All right, good evening, everybody. So I just want to summarize a few of some of my the points of the school that I represent. So I'm going to start with PS 15, which is based in Red Hook community. Based on my thought that I had in the discussion with the principal, a couple of things that came up as urgent that I put on the list. The first thing is the playground for early childhood. As we spoke about, in terms of space, the early childhood playground is in a very bad shape, and that is where most of the students go out and have their activities. During my tour, I observed, a few hazardous things like I wouldn't say lead, but I would say exposed metals, but they've done their best to sort of patch it out. So one of the things that I would like to do is actually do a renovation that will allow the pre-K kids to actually go out and spend time doing those activities. So that's one of the things I had on the list. The second that I had on the list is auditorium. The school auditorium is very old, and it's gotten to a point where some parts of the auditorium are inaccessible at some point, especially trying to get on stage. That is where they have most of their function. As you know, District PS 15 is one of the few schools that has successfully integrated D15, D75 kids. So it's really important that we actually, try to enhance these arts and culture within that community as well. So that's one renovation that they were looking to have done. One other need was, AC. Most of the classrooms during the summertime is unbearable because of non-working air conditioners. So sometimes most of the kids have to congregate in a particular place where the air conditioner is. So they would like to have a few of those. And one of the things that is across board is the need for water fountains and good drinking water for the kids. So most of these standing can be turned into water fountains that are filtered to have the children hydrate throughout the day. And also accessibility issue, that's a bit more down the list. Do you want me to go through my other schools as well? Or just?
Why don't we just go in order?
Okay.
So we don't get lost here.
All right. So that's for the 15. I'll just pass it up.
Yeah, so Camille's not here, so I'll just read her. So for PS 24, the vestibule was repaired but not done well, and it seems they want it redone. They need privacy screens for the schoolyard perimeter, air conditioning in the common areas, auditorium upgrade, including AV equipment, internet and Wi-Fi upgrade. Nancy, you wanna?
I'll pass right on 676. And I'll continue on to 32. right now, their main concern is air conditioning in the auditorium. It's a large space and it gets very hot in there, of course, with a lot of people. And so they are eager for air conditioning in the auditorium.
Okay. I'm up again. For PS 38, they need security cameras around the perimeter of the building. They are also looking for a new auditorium, seats, AV equipment, screens, lighting, floor ventilation, AC, the whole works in their auditorium. They need gym AC, cafeteria AC, and new staff bathrooms. Nana, I think you might be up 124.
124?
Yeah.
Yeah, we skipped it here.
Sorry.
We skipped, we skipped 88.
Oh, yeah. We skipped the Kia.
Well, the Kia's not here, but, oh, do you want to read?
Yeah, we
through it?
should read.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Okay,
sure. Okay.
All right. So Nakia Muhasa Brown represents 51, and they would like the removal of asbestos behind tiles in the hallway. And they want lockers placed in the hallways. Oh, and then I guess it's back to me again. At 94,
Oh, wait, no.
No?
There's 58 and 88.
but they didn't put
Oh, I
anything.
see.
Okay, at 94, they would like to renovate their roof and install a green roof with a playground, gym, or learning area. They'd like to renovate the existing playground. It was somewhat damaged by exterior renovation work that had been done. And they really want an elevator. Okay, now it's Vanessa. Do you see where we are?
107.
107.
Okay, so I need to confirm this because the last time I reviewed construction related deals was in the spring. But I don't know, so I don't know what has been updated or not. Up to that point, the sidewalk on 14th Street needed repair. The roof was in need of snow guards. There were many lighting fixtures that were defective and beyond repair. They were not, they had gone beyond their useful life. And there were areas in the building that the heating system was not working whatsoever. This was not an issue in the spring as much as it is now, which is why I am cautious about making the suggestions at this moment, but I do have a visit at 107 scheduled for Monday. So confirm all this.
I think Nana's up now. 124.
Okay, so for 124, there is water damage throughout the interior of the building, which for the email today is currently being addressed. So that kind of goes down the pecking order. But the number one urgent need right now is a security camera. So if you know where 124 is located, it's located on 4th Avenue between 13th and 14th Street. So the reason for the security camera is there are 7 exits. That 2 exits that are coming out straight to 4th, that comes out to 4th Avenue, is a very busy street, and the other exits that are going out from 13th Street and 14th Street. There is one safety guard that is actually just on the first floor, meaning that if there's an exit in any of that and the alarm goes off, it's going to take a while for the safety officer to reach any kid that has exited. And because there are no security cameras, it's going to be hard for them to know who exited the building. So the security cameras is meant to be a very, very good safety so that they can be able to look at the camera in case the alarm goes off and see what is going on in those exits. That is the first, the most important priority. Now the other ones are, they need some air conditioners in some of the common areas, which is not working. And also there's a water fountain need that they want to be able to have, accessible filter water for the children throughout the day. And of course, handicap accessibility, if they can get that as well. So for 130, which is next on the list, is they need a bathroom upgrade for the second floor. So currently on the second floor, there is one bathroom that has one stall with over 40 kids. So you can imagine that during recess time, kids try to use the bathroom, there's always a long line. What they need is some more stalls to be installed to be able to accommodate all the kids on both the second floor and the third floor. The other one that they spoke about was a stained glass repair. It looks like it's going to crack anytime soon. So the one that cleaned and checked out. Another major need is the need for an elevator on the lower level, on the lower school. It's a very old building and it has about 6 to 7 floors. Getting up and down those floors are very, very intense. And what they would really like to do is see if there can be an elevator actually in that building as well. And also handicap accessibility in the school. I think that's it for me.
At 154, they're also looking for an elevator. And they would like new playground equipment. Nakia Muhasa Brown is up next, but she's not here. And I'll just read that her school 230 would like to repair and reinforce the roof and the roofing perimeter. Although she writes it's in progress, so I'm a little confused what's going on there. Camille, who represents 293, they're looking for ADA compliant entrances, student restrooms on the second floor, a dance studio, a chemistry lab, cafeteria needs AC, the gym needs AC. Their gym floor was supposed to be fixed in June, but there was an issue. I don't know, she's flagging an issue with the gym floor. 293 is also looking to create an art studio maker space. They want new classroom doors, especially on certain classrooms. They need a new auditorium, new seating, stage, sound, curtains, the whole works. And they would like locker rooms, student locker rooms. And then Nancy?
So at PS 321, they're currently undergoing a major construction project. It's an exterior masonry project that's involving roof work, brickwork, and replacing windows, which was not part of the SCA priority list last year. In fact, we had asked, I know one of the top 5 things in our SCA priority list last year was a replacement of their central air conditioning, and that has not been addressed. So I'm finding out if they would like it to be put back on the list at this time.
Camille's next on the list at 655 slash 656. They need air conditioning in the common areas, ADA entrances. There are concerns about safety when the scaffolding is up. They need more light around the scaffolding. They need a design analysis and gym upgrade, including new floor. The High School for the Arts wants a volleyball option with grommets on the floor. 656 wants ADA entrances, AC in the common areas, AC in the gym needs to be replaced. And 447 would like a green space for science. Okay. And I represent PS 1 18. They would like a total schoolyard renovation. They have a large yard where the soft mat surface surrounding the climbing apparatus has worn down and has made the mat slippery. There are cracks in the asphalt. The small yard has some drainage issues and the water builds up and the mat surface is also worn down. The gym has wall paneling that is falling off, like those padded wall panels. So they need new wall panels, and they want a school sign. Currently, the school has no sign. Camille represents 142, which is BNS and BCS. And they need a cafeteria upgrade, including booth seating and AC. They need an auditorium upgrading, including new seats, working projector, and AC. They want to repair the scoreboard in the gym. They want full building bathroom renovations. They'd like to replace all the windows so that they can see out of them. I guess they had some renovation and it involved some sandblasting and it must have damaged the windows. They want permanent ACs in all common areas. It seems like they need AC units in certain classrooms as well. And that's the end of the list. Now, obviously, we can't go through. Tia, did you have anything? No? Okay. We can't go through the process of haggling, but since we are here, we can create a recommended list of our top 5 so that when we call a special session to vote, maybe we can work through that a little bit more quickly. Does anybody want to?
Shall we turn it to public comment and
Sure.
comments?
At this moment, I will request comments from CC, I'm sorry, from members of the public that are in person. Seeing no comments, I'm going to request comments from the public on the Zoom link. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we will unmute you. Okay, seeing no questions, I'm going to ask if the interpretation lines have any questions.
There are no questions on the Spanish line.
There is no participant on the Mandarin line.
There are no questions at the Bengali line either.
For the Mandarin line, did you say there are no participants?
I have asked questions and I did not get any responder whatsoever. So I assume.
Okay, no questions on the Zoom.
So
CEC members, do we have any questions before we move to comments on the priority recommendations?
So, I know you may, but I just wanted to make a comment in terms of the priority recommendation. I think because Senate members are not here to sort of elaborate a bit more about what the project is, it may be a bit premature to do that. It's just because just by reading the list, it just, for me, it just doesn't give me enough to understand what really the magnitude of what really is at stake. So one of my recommendations, maybe we can move that to special meeting So we can have each member sort of go through that and Q&A at that point, so we can have more informed.
Yeah,
More informed to make those decisions.
yeah. I agree that there's a deadline on this that I believe is by January 11th, I think. So, but I'm not 100% sure about that.
So maybe we
So
should call a special meeting before the holiday period.
we
just to
might
talk about
have
this.
to, but we will not be able to get permits in that quick a time unless we do it at 1:31. We could probably do it at 1:31.
Yeah.
And get the necessary permits. Call a special session. But
What about, can we do it via Zoom?
no, not yet, because we cannot do it by Zoom.
We could, we could order things, right, online, I mean, on the Google document, basically. And as we did last year, I think that there's some legwork that we can do before we meet. So I think it makes sense to go ahead and wait until we've got more people to be able to go through it.
I mean, what I'm suggesting is that a preliminary recommendation be made. And then when we're with the others, they can say, no, 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 I would like X added. Because the haggling takes a while. And I think since we're all in the room together, there are 5 of us. We could make a recommendation of 5 and they could disagree with us. When they are, we cannot vote on it. But if you're not comfortable with that, we don't have to do that.
I prefer not to spend the time to do
You
that.
prefer not to spend the time to do that. Okay.
I think it's gonna be a bit premature. I mean, I can talk about mine for days, but I'd like to hear about others as well, so that I can be able to make more informed.
Okay.
Okay, thank
So
you.
then we will have
So we'll
to
move on.
call a special session probably at the beginning of January.
Okay,
I
all right.
I don't think we're going to get enough people in the room. I know I'm leaving next Thursday.
Me too.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Thank you. Okay, so next on the agenda is the president's report. Since I'm filling in for Camille today, I will say a couple of things. And this is a wonderful opportunity to start by saying that Camille Casaretti is an amazing president. I think she's the best president of all the CECs. She's not listening on this call, so I'm not saying this because I want her to hear it. But I think she works tirelessly and she's amazing. And I'm sad that she's unable to be here tonight. Based off the SCA list that we just went through, what kept coming up repeatedly was that schools need filtered water and air conditioning. And if I can just take a minute to say that's pretty unfortunate that we live in a state that has an operating budget larger than all of Sweden, and we're looking for filtered water and air conditioning for our children in public schools. And that's kind of in light of over $300 million that's not being returned to public schools right now. That was cut from our public school budgets. So this is to say that Camille speaks often about the concerns surrounding mayoral control for public education. Mayoral control was reinstated or instated, I should say, in 2002, and 20 years later, we're still operating under mayoral control, and there's currently a lot at stake, as always, and a lot being discussed as to whether or not maybe it's time to think of a better system than mayoral control. So I I leave that with you to think about. One of the things, however, that has been very positive that our mayor and chancellor have instated is special education support and expansion of access for early childhood education. And I'll just read a little bit about what their plan is. They have expanded special education in the 5 boroughs in partnership with community-based providers that will provide a seat for every child living with a disability by the spring of 2023. So that is wonderful news, and we're very happy that there's an expansion of special education for early childhood. And finally, this is the season of people having many different celebrations and many different opportunities to just rest. And so we wish you all rest and wonderful celebrations in the coming new year. And with that, I will pass it to Superintendent Alvarez for his report.
Good. How's everyone doing? Can they hear me from here? Or?
No,
Good?
yeah, but we'll still pass it over.
Sure. Just push it closer so it is. All right, so next slide. You can go to the next slide. That's just our agenda. I don't want to hold everybody. I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday, whatever holiday you celebrate. If you don't celebrate a holiday, looking forward into our new year of 2023. So I just want to wish everyone happy holidays, and whatever you celebrate, if you celebrate, that you enjoy peace with you and your families. So I want to thank you for all that. I want to shout out Principal Denise Watson, PS32. We visited her school for our principal's conference, but in addition to her principal's conference, we were able to actually walk her school, walk multiple classrooms. And on the next slide, and you'll be able to get copies of this, we went to several classrooms to see how social emotional learning is embedded in the daily practices of the school. So principals from all of our schools were able to see SEL work in the classrooms across the building, all the way from K to 5, and including the cluster classes, whether it was a youth class, or art class, and school leaders were able to see what students were doing around that work. And so I want to shout out principal for doing that. Going forward, we're going to be doing a lot of in-service visitations across schools that the principal's advisory is putting together around SEM, project-based learning, marginalized student small group instruction, station teaching. They're going to be happening across our district, as well as SEL work, and restorative justice practices that school leaders will be able to visit with their staff to other schools that will be doing that on a monthly basis. So kudos to them. I also want to welcome 3 different team members to District 15. Paula Stein, who is the District Manager of Operations and Special Projects. Essentially, she's replacing Maggie this year, our former FSL. Aurelius Hernandez, replacing Nikki Calise, who resigned from the DOE. Aurelius has a lot of background in behavioral supports and crisis management into our team, and she started officially today. And then we still have a vacancy for the district attendance coordinator. As you all know, that position is a vacancy that's only open to excess principals or assistant principals in our system. Currently, there's about 169. We've been interviewing in the process. Hopefully, in January, we'll see another one welcome to the district at that point. Diversity plan evaluation and assessment updates. Again, I'm speaking fast. I just realized we have translation. So sorry. I'm not going to go into the details. Red are the updates to what I've already shared with you last month. I was interviewed this past week. Office of People Transportation, Risberg, James Sarkis, and John Benson have already been interviewed. There are 4 follow-ups to be completed with middle schools. 2 are scheduled before the winter break. In terms of the small group and school meeting with SLTs, 1 has been completed, 5 are scheduled for December, 1 scheduled for January, and 5 are in the process of scheduling. So just to give you updates, I promise to give you updates on a monthly basis around what WXY is doing to evaluate. We've also been drafting, they worked on drafting survey questions. We began preparation on analyses and the use of publicly available data. We're just waiting for a DOE data set, for example, the type 1 data. School school-based programmatic offerings. We sent the request on the 23rd of November. They're waiting for the DOE data to begin analysis. In terms of the analysis of engagement, we're cleaning notes from engagement so far. So we're kind of gathering information, trying to triangulate what the information is telling us. And then they're also working on focus groups. So they're drafting out those focus groups based on the feedback from the engagement they've had with CEC as well as myself and other team members that have given feedback to this particular process. In terms of the assessment strategies part, we're building out 4 potential focus areas based on reflections from the engagement, likely to include focus on funding, program offerings, and transportation. Next slide. The district vision, it's a little split off, so I'm just going to move it over. This is what we have finalized with the input from everyone, including CC members, parents, community member stakeholders. We've been talking to principals, assistant principals, and this is what we gathered at the vision and mission. This will be posted on our website. It will go live. Currently, we have a website, but we're going live with the new website with all the added resources. For example, a parent space where there's full documentation for parents to be able to access as new PTA members, parent coordinators corner where they have access to parent coordinated materials and resources for parents, websites that parents can go on to support their children with resources, district information about resources that our district instructional leads and team members have access to, your ability to access those members on our particular team. So we want to make sure that we're clear on this. So essentially, I'm just going to read this because I want to be clear where we are. District 15 vision is we're committed to providing a safe, welcoming, diverse, and collaborative learning environment that ensures all students are provided with equitable and personalized learning opportunities to succeed. We're going to talk about that later because I'm going to show you what we're doing as a district. And our mission is to provide equitable opportunities for success that values and nurtures our students, building upon their strengths so they may become empowered members of our district diverse community. And how we're going to support students to do this? Delivering high academic achievement, project-based, culturally responsive teaching and learning, empowering students to apply their learning, advocacy, and social justice, and partnering with our families and local communities to collaborate towards our shared vision of success and empowerment. And that's encompassed in our district logo, where we're stronger together through collaborating, inspiration, and empowerment. Next slide. So what does our data say so far? And I'm supposed to present some information to you about what our district data is as it relates to the results from last year. And so we're going to go along and break it down. In ELA, from grades 3 through 8, percentage points from 2019, we're down by 0.8. In grades 3 through 8 math, we're down by 5.8 percentage points. So that tells us we have to do some more work around math. And because we have a large L population, we have to do more work around math and vocabulary and writing about that mathematics so that students understand the concepts that they're actually learning as opposed to just computation. So ELA progress for Ls. We had a 7.8% increase in proficiency over the past 4 years. Next slide. L progress for students with IEPs, a 9% increase in proficiency over the past 4 years. Math progress, 6% increase in proficiency over the past 4 years for students with IEPs. For Ls, is a 4.7% decrease in proficiency over the past 4 years. So what does that say? Again, mathematics is a priority that we have to focus on as it relates to vocabulary and assessment. One of the reasons why this data may show this is because when you think about beginning Ls or new arriving Ls, if they're here than less than a year, they're not required to take the ELA exam, but they are still required to take the mathematics exam. Part of the reason for that is because math is considered a universal language and they can get the assessment in their language. And we're not assessing their ability to read in English. The issue with this also is that depending on what country you're coming from, it may not be aligned to the same expectations of what we're learning here in New York. And I say that because other states also have somewhat different expectations if they're not following Common Core learning standards, like the state of Virginia that still uses SOLs. So giving that history, also we use a different metric system than most countries outside the United States. So that also makes it difficult for students who are entering here with a different metric system to have to take assessments that have a different metric system that they didn't learn in their native countries. So that could be a reason for this, but we know that we have to target vocabulary, vocabulary, vocabulary. So next slide.
You want us to talk just generally?
Oh, yeah.
about the screener?
Thank you. So in our academic universal screeners, same thing with reading, the area that we're seeing the biggest gaps are students who are ELs. That trickles into Hispanic students and other groups because they might fall in more than one category. We also have a need to work on, particularly in ELA, with our housing insecure population, our students in temporary housing. That population needs more support, but that's connected to absenteeism and chronic absenteeism, which impacts their ability to learn if they're not actually in school. So I wanted to point that out. And then my next one is in terms of mathematics. And in mathematics, again, we're seeing a huge gap between our L students, students with disabilities, and the rest of the population. So that's where we're really trying to target academic vocabulary, because we feel if we build tier 1, 2, and 3 vocabulary, we'll help students better understand the concepts so that they can be able to explain their responses on their part 2 of state exams, which requires them to actually do writing around mathematics, right? And so that's kind of where the struggle is. Thank you for that. So what are we doing to try to address attendance and academic disproportionality across the district? I'm not gonna read every single one of them, but I just want you to be aware of what's there. You're gonna be able to see this because all of our PowerPoints, and they will be translated in the other languages, will be on the CEC's website. The CEC has access to this, but some of the things that we're doing is really focusing on historically marginalized students. So when I'm going into schools for PPOs, and Nicole and I go into schools, I'm asking, who are the populations you're targeting from an equity standpoint to bring up to the rest of the groups of students, and how are you closing that gap? I'm asking for individual students' names because what I'm doing is I'm now going into classrooms to see what are we doing differently for those individual students that we're going to the class. And that's another way to get schools to start focusing on disproportionality data in their school communities. And that looks different in every school. One school I went to, for example, 516, which we're here now with Principal Knudsen, we talked about long-term Hispanic males in terms of ELs, right? And so that's her targeted population she's trying to address. In another school, it might be students with disabilities who are Hispanic, or who are Black, or who are white. Every school is going to look different, but the idea is that they're targeting those historically marginalized. And I say historically because it's not a one-off in 1 year, but what are the patterns and trends that you're seeing that these students are still not increasing? Because if we target those students, we're going to see all of our schools make increases, ultimately having the entire district make increases. We have those grant resources and partners to support districts and individual schools like Metamorphosis and a lot of the programs I told you before, like Goldman Sauer for ICT classes. We have developed capacity of our principals and APs through our conferences and workshops, intervisitations, as I expressed before, instructional leadership and data PDs with inquiry groups. We have attendance, math, ELA, AIS, and SEL action plans that we've been working on. There's a district attendance action team that we've been focusing on, and it meets weekly to really figure out what we're doing to support schools in terms of chronic absenteeism. We've hired a new student service manager, which you heard about. We're hiring an attendance coordinator. We're using the Equity Congress this year strategically by looking at disproportionality data at their schools and having them bring that information to their school leaders so that when they're not looking at it, these are the people who are saying, have you looked at this? And getting schools to really focus on that work more. We're doing tons more workshops to address the needs of the community, and Christine and Brenda have been doing an amazing job at doing that with also partnerships, and professional development for our social workers, our guidance counselors, and parent coordinators. So they're not only just getting professional development from our supervising social worker and new student service manager, but they're actually getting outside professional development from nationally recognized organizations that are supporting their work to support our kids in our individual schools. So we're proud of that particular work. One example is math instructional support. Our math leads, and this is a sample plan, are working on curriculum supports, deepening content knowledge so that teachers are better able, for example, to teach mathematics, not from reading the book in their hand, but really understanding the content they're covering. Instructional routines so that these are patterns of fluency and repetition for students in the lower grades. As they get older, it becomes part of their practice so that they can focus more on the content, and developing coaching and teacher leaders. So members of my team are held accountable for impact that they're having at schools. So on a 6 to 8 week cycle, we reevaluate what services we're providing to schools from support and seeing what impact that's having on students. If it's not having impact, we're having conversations with those team members from the District 15 team. If they are having impact,
Okay, you cut out for a second from this.
Okay, so I gotta stay
Yeah, we have no.
No, they had to, we had to switch.
oh, okay, sorry. So this is our attendance action plan. I'm not gonna go into details, but I want you to be able to read this and ask me any questions you have, but a detailed plan of how we're trying to address attendance. For example, I was at a school the other day. We came up with a walking school bus for some of those particular kids. Some schools were able to buy alarm clocks for some families. Some school leaders are calling home in the morning as a morning wake-up call for students. And we're also trying to figure out, I've recently worked with NYU Langone to extend their hours to 8 p.m. so that doctor's appointments can be done at later times in the day so that students are taken out either later in the day or can go to appointments later on in the evening. So these are some things that we're trying to address and approach by giving schools ideas at their attendance meetings. District team members go to attendance meetings for schools that are struggling. And we've identified our tier 1 and our tier 2 schools. Our tier 2 schools are schools that are between 80 and 87%. Currently, we have about 10 schools that we're focusing on, and we're going to get deeper into that work. And ideally, all they need is 1 percentage point or 1.5 percentage points because most of them are close to 90, but we have to differentiate between tier 1 and 2 since a lot of our schools fall under tier 1 because our attendance is pretty good. Citywide, we rank number 5, and you'll see that shortly. So if we go to the next slide. We're also doing schools engagement and strategic assessment planning, really thinking about how are they planning for individual student needs in the actual classroom. This work is going to take 2 to 3 years, but we're starting those conversations again through our PPO conversations to get school leaders and school teachers to start focusing on, okay, I have the general class, which is what that normally is happening, of teaching to the general class. How do I differentiate through station teaching, small group instruction, and targeting students where they are so that it's still rigorous, but still addressing grade level content while still supporting kids where they struggle, if that makes sense. Next slide. So updates on district events and dates on our calendar. Again, yesterday, universal indoor masking recommendations. New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene has issued universal indoor masking recommendations for all indoor settings, including schools, daycare centers, due to the current high rates of the flu and respiratory conditions across our schools, across our city. Every student and staff member is encouraged to wear a mask. All schools and offices are equipped with masks. If you ask for a mask, you should be provided with a mask. If you are not, please let your school leader know. Let our family leadership coordinator or family support coordinator or my office know if you're not able to receive masks at any particular school. And a family-facing update about masking recommendations is being prepared to be sent home. I believe it was sent home today, but if it wasn't, they all should be receiving it tomorrow for sure. Next slide. Creating and accessing NISCA accounts. Primarily, most of our schools are above 70%. We have about 8 or 9 schools that are not at 70% or above. We are working with Christine, those schools to help get those accounts up. As you're aware, this is how you're going to be able to vote for CEC members going forward, but also a wealth of information, a plethora of information here that you have access to, such as grades, students' attendance daily, other information that you're going to have access to. Eventually, you're going to be able to know where your child's bus is, as that's being piloted across District 26, as well as some other districts by 1 route or 2 routes. This is expected to eventually come online citywide eventually. So please, if you haven't received your school's NISCA account, please do so. The caveat here is I know a lot of our families who are undocumented are concerned that this is tied in some way. I assure you, New York City is a sanctuary city, which means we do not provide information about people's immigration status. And therefore, this information is not utilized in any way to share with any federal agencies. Furthermore, New York City does protect how we support not sharing personal information around any of our students or community unless through subpoenas through court. That even goes for NYPD when they're investigating things, they have to go through a subpoena process. So I want to be clear that your information is not shared with anyone in any way, shape, or form. Anyone that's not DOE related, because obviously we use this information for you to be able to vote and everything else, I should say that. Looking ahead, the 26th of January 2nd is our winter recess. Schools are closed. That's a Monday to Monday. December 5th through January 20th is the opening of the second benchmark for the academic screeners, the fall benchmark. Sometime in February, I'll be able to report where we are as a district as it relates to progress from baseline to mid-year progress. From January 16th, obviously, is Martin Luther King Day. Schools are closed. From the 24th to the 27th is Regents Administration. That's a Tuesday to Friday. January 30th is a professional development day for high schools. So these students will not be in school on that day. And January 31st is Tuesday's spring semester begins on a Tuesday. Next slide is the actual Regents exam schedule. So if you have a child taking any of these Regents exams, these are the dates that they will be taking the exam. Next slide. This week, call to action. We're inviting everyone across our district to participate. We have 4 drop-off locations, 29, 94, 896, and 88, where goods are being served, brought to those community schools from all across the district. Every school is participating. There are performances from several different schools across our district, from across the entire district. And I just want to point out even my district team. So every year we do a secret snowflake. This year, my team of 25, 26 team members decided we didn't want to do that. Rather than give each other gifts, we decided to donate what we had to this particular cause. And we had over 200 toothbrushes and toiletries and other items that we bought as a district team to provide to our own district and our district community. I want to be clear that this is not just for students in temporary housing or that. These are for people across our district that may be in need. And there are a lot of need with inflation, prices of everything going up. And so this is across our district for all of our schools' participation. And we look forward to seeing everybody there at PS 24 this Thursday. I know it's supposed to be bad weather, but whatever we do, we're going to make sure that it doesn't happen and we have a successful day on that day. Next slide.
Just got the 450 families signed up so far.
Want to say that again?
450.
We have 450 families right now that are registered to participate in this particular event. And I'm sure we're going to get a few more because people have been registering each day. Next slide. Our parent workshop on December 14th, which is tomorrow, building parent power. Why get involved in your child's school? This is still Zoom, and it's led by Christine Farrell, who's leading this work tomorrow from 5:30 to 6:30 on a Zoom call. The link is there. You'll have access, and it's translated in the languages as well. The other flyer that you saw for call to action, same thing. And then last slide, special session where Brendan Lang from OSYD, Senior Program Manager for Respect for All Trainings, will be doing supporting students in understanding the difference between bullying and conflict. We will have translators as we always do. It's December 21st, 6:30 to 8. I'm going to apologize now as I'm going to be in the middle of 2 meetings, but because this is mainly going to be about the conflict of bullying, conflict versus bullying, Nicole will lead for me there. I'm going to start us off, but I will also be at the PEP on this day, since this day is where the voting is going to be for the 896 proposal. So I'm going to be between both particular meetings, but I will be there to answer questions as much as I can. If not, my deputy is my right hand. She could answer any questions going forward. Questions?
Hi, thanks for the comprehensive report. So I just wanted to just draw attention to a few of the statistics that you're mentioning.
Yeah.
When it came to the L's and the I disabilities. So my visit to the schools made me aware that there's an immense need for para professionals, and maybe the lack of that is one of the reasons why some of the students are lacking. How is your office basically addressing that to make sure that there's adequate paraprofessionals in these schools?
So for the paraprofessionals, it's not that there's a lack of paraprofessionals, it's been that they haven't received the funding for their para. So every school has the paras that they're supposed to have for the students that are supposed to be receiving services. So let's be clear on that. What I've been doing to address the lack of the funding is I've been working with the central office, teaching and learning, Carolyn Quintana's office, Karen Ahmed's office, which is early childhood, division of school leadership, which is Dr. Blackburn's office, in trying to get that money to our schools. So what they've been doing is been providing the money and having the money being sent to our schools in droves, and it's been clearing up the funding that's being owed. Schools are also going to be getting additional funding come the end of December as it relates to the number of students they may have with special needs at their particular school, so they're going to get that. Recently, the DOE opened the substitute paraprofessional nominations process. That's open until December 22nd. Select schools who've been having that need, who've been putting it into Sub-Central every single day, have been given the opportunity to nominate substitute paras, so those substitute paras can work in their buildings. They have to do a minimum of 20 days in this particular school year. If they reach 25 days of being paid, not 25 days working, they have to work 25 days and then wait several weeks later before they actually paid for those 25 days, where they can be nominated to be permanent staff members. What we're starting to do is starting to evaluate the actual need of several powers. For example, in some schools, in some classrooms, we might have like 6 health powers in one classroom. There's not a need for 6 health powers in one classroom. There might be a need for 2 health powers in a classroom to support kids with health needs in a classroom, right? So looking at where we can make those adjustments so that we're maximizing how we're supporting students and finding ways to use those resources in other ways to support our schools academically and in other ways. So that's what we're trying to do to address that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Any other questions from our audience that is? Questions? Any questions? I actually do. This is actually something that wasn't covered in your presentation, but I just wanted to bring your attention having just gone through something for application process personally and also participating in some public forums online throughout the process. There were a lot of reports of people getting incorrect information from their guidance counselors. So I hope that for next year that there's some kind of structural addressing of some kind of training or specific instructions for guidance counselors in terms of just really specific information. So for example, incorrect, deadlines for the audition videos to be uploaded, or saying that, it matters whether you put, rank of us, how, what order you can put a school in and on your list, just very technical things like that. Reports from people in the district, around the city, but also in the district, of just some guidance counselors really not being up to date on the actual process. It has changed, each year, during the pandemic, and I'm sure it'll change again next year. So
In bringing
yeah.
that to my attention,
Yeah.
Nicole, if we can just document so that Valeria and Aurelius, who is our student service manager, who supports the guidance counselors, and Valeria, who's our supervising social worker, who supports that work too. What we'll do is make sure that our middle school guidance counselors are brought together to create one, for example, PowerPoint that is a district-wide PowerPoint that's shared across each school for coherence purposes, so that parents are getting the same message across the district from whichever school they're particularly at, to address that, because I hear what you're saying with that. I'm also going to see if we can even do a town hall for next year. That's one of mine. That will bring the guidance counselors in virtually to have a conversation district-wide, so that the messages are also the same. I'll also talk to you and Superintendent Ross to see how we can jointly have conversations, because sometimes the thing with the deadlines has to do with the school that they're applying for that has, and unfortunately, high school superintendents have that control. I only have control of two, BHS and Brooklyn Arts. And we can make sure that that information at least is shared in our middle school one. But I think for coherence purposes to what you're saying, we'll make sure that going forward, that there is a unified PowerPoint that's district specific around what those deadlines are, what to say, what conversations to have, so on and so forth, so that we're all getting the same message as parents across the district. Which makes sense.
Thank you.
Of course.
At this time, I'm going to see if there are any questions from the public on Zoom. Are there any questions from the interpretation lines?
No questions on the Spanish line.
There's no question on the Mandarin line.
There is no question in Bengali line either.
And we have no questions on the interpretations.
Okay. Thank you so much, Superintendent Alvarez. And now we'll move to the Brooklyn North High School Superintendent's Report, and we welcome you at 2.
Good evening, everyone. Do you want to sit here or do you want to walk around or what do you?
I'm probably going to buzz around because I'm freezing. I've been cold for 48 hours.
Okay, I'll point this that way.
I'm waiting for the lovely Shanice
All right, this works. This
to
is.
get our pub. But first of all, welcome everyone. Early happy holidays. Your most amazing children ever, right there.
My daughter just lost this year. That's why.
Just now? That's awesome. It's awesome. It's funny, like best laid plans. I was saying to Janice that this might be the month that you can go to District 15 because we did not have a principals meeting today. Our principals meeting is next Tuesday, but then there was a superintendent's meeting. Where, Raphael?
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, right.
And as you guys know, Janice lives on Long Island, so going from the hall of, this was not on her way home. So, but we are hopeful about the new year to make it happen. Thank you so much. So just super quickly, this is my lightning. This is our, it's no longer summer, Brooklyn North High School vibe. So happy winter, I guess, as of the past 2 days. Next slide, please. So as always, a reminder of our fabulous schools in your district. I actually have, I know you guys aren't voting on the capital plan tonight, but I did do some homework for Camille, who we send all the love and good wishes. I spoke with her earlier today. Sorry she can't be here, but Totally 100% agree on her being a rock star. Next slide, please. We can look through these are our goals as a reminder. And I cannot remember because I feel like we just met, so I may have talked about this already. We're thinking about the new year, restarting professional development that we're doing with our principals, and continuing the work with Dr. Muhammad about culturally relevant pedagogy and curriculum. And we have 10 schools working intensely with Dr. Danelle Dickey to continue refining curriculum to make sure that while we're paying attention to culturally responsive practices, we're not sacrificing standards aligned outcomes and assessments. So more on that as the year rolls along. Next slide, please. I think Rafael already heard this today, but Janice presented to the superintendents around what we're doing as a high school district around literacy. So these are just a few bullet points from her very comprehensive presentation. Our schools are steeped in research-based approaches. We use technology when it's needed. We, just like the district team, we have folks thinking about academic intervention services, how we adjust our practices for students with IEPs, for English language learners. The district literacy goal that we have set for ourselves this year, knowing full well that the return of the regions brings a different level of intensity to the work, that we're committing to improving our students' average ELA region scores by 3.5 percentage points from last June. As a high school district, always focused on college and career readiness and how literacy fits into that. We think a lot about functional literacy and social literacy and how students will need to engage as literate grown-ups, because that's what they are. Next slide, please. As always, our focus on attendance, similar to Rafael, we have our tiered strategy. As a high school district right now, we're thinking a lot about chronic absenteeism. The chancellor has set a goal for the city that no more than 30% of students will be chronically absent this year. Next slide. And as a reminder, chronic absenteeism is defined as missing 10% of school in any given calendar year. So that's 18 days. And once a student is chronically absent, you can't undo it. There's no way to then not be chronically absent. This is a huge issue in high schools. And if Manny Pico were here from District 79, he would talk a lot about how districts like District 79 and transfer schools try to receive students who stop coming to school. We as a high school district are fiercely focused on preventing kids from becoming chronically absent. We're really proud that as of currently, only 7% of our students are chronically absent. So we're paying attention to the students who we call at risk of being chronically absent, and there are students who have not hit that 10% absence, but are tracking that way. And right now we have about 26% of our students that when you get the PowerPoint, you can see the teeny tiny number of the actual count. Similar to Rafael, we have weekly attendance meetings. This is our conversation right now, not just because the chancellor's been talking about it, but because kids need to come to school. And as they get older, the opportunity to recoup what is missed becomes very limited. Next slide, please. Similar to Rafael, our tier 1 attendance, I know I talk about attendance all the time, but we love this work. School climate, great pedagogy. We hired a family leadership coordinator who's actually an alumna from one of our schools. She was a newly arrived student not very long ago at the Brooklyn Lab School out in the Franklin K. Lane campus. And came back as a volunteer, ended up being the parent coordinator for the school, and 5 years later, she's now leading the work for the district. And you will see that we are now on Instagram, and she's going to refresh our Twitter feed and probably take over the website. The district digest, which she just took over last week, already looks like super much snazzier than my old lady version. So I'm gonna get Diana here to meet you guys. The folks who are on the DLT will meet Diana soon. I've already connected her with Christine to learn everything she can from the best in the business. And then tier 2, our at-risk kids, just constantly looking at data, trying to figure out what schools need to keep these kids coming to school. We don't want them to slide into the chronically absent category. And then, of course, the tier 3, which are the intensive support kids. These are students who have the no-shows. We're trying to reach families. We're trying to present them with options so that we can reconnect them to what we think of as society, which is school. I'm so bummed that Manny's didn't come because I've worked with District 79 for the past 4 years, and I think you guys would really enjoy working with him. Next slide, please. So our capital plan asks, not different from what you've heard from the elementary schools. Park Slope Collegiate was in the middle of an air conditioning upgrade when there was that air conditioning for all thing. I don't know if that was officially called that, but we called it that, right? You guys are not. So they were in the middle of it. Somehow it paused and now there's no money. So, and you guys know they're on the top floor. When it gets hot, it gets really hot. And our joke was they were told, oh, Raphael, did you know that superintendents have money for air conditioning now? Right? So that's Park Slope Collegiate's ask. And similarly, apparently on the John Jay campus, all of the, thanks to the CEC and SCA, all the bathrooms have been renovated except the staff bathroom at Park Slope Collegiate. So on any given day, it is not a healthy or safe place for grown-ups. So that is their ask. Downstairs at John Jay Law, Shamari Akil, who is our IA principal, soon to be C30, really wants to bring back what it means to be the John Jay School for Law. So he would love a courtroom, so his kids can participate in mock trials. And if anyone's interested, we actually have a model one at the Brooklyn High School for Law and Technology, which Karen Watts built when she was the principal there. Also in John Jay Cyber Art Studio, they have an incredible multimedia teacher who's teaching in a classroom, just kind of making do. And his students have been researching, they've been connecting with colleges and wondering why their multimedia lab doesn't look like the 21st century. So we would love to help them with that. And then I don't know if you guys remember, but I think it was last year, Mark Rampersan and Tom Taraco were going around to different campuses and doing this facelift. I think they started it when Chancellor Farina came back, and you guys know, right? She was very much like, when you walk into a building, your first impression is super important. But John Jay never got on the list. So it is, you know, it is a building that has gone through a lot of evolution. The schools have tried really hard to, they work together. They are a diverse portfolio of schools. But when you walk into that building, it's the 1970s. And I know that because I was around in the 1970s, not like some of you. So that is our list that Camille asked us to put together. So any support you guys would be great. This will give you a link to our district digest, which, as you can see, Diana has fancified. Apparently, we now have a QR code. I don't quite know what it does, but when you play with it, you can see why Diana is so much better at this than I am. Next slide, please. And then I think like all the elementary schools, our schools have been enjoying Thanksgiving feasts and cultural shows. Digital Tech has started to celebrate some early college acceptances. So that's on their page in our digest. Next slide, please. And then our MBSK. So we, on December 20th, which is next Tuesday, after our principals meeting, we are hosting 500 students at Barclay Center at the 4040 Club. Yeah, the 4040 Club, where each school has a MBSK team of 10 students who will be spending the afternoon with us with some motivational speakers. But really it's literally a mixer. It's really for them to get to know each other. I'm freaking out a little bit, but apparently Janice is like, we do this all the time. 500 high school kids at Barclay Center. It's going to be awesome. So if anyone's interested, let me know. You are most welcome to join us. And then I think you guys have this already, but I always love bringing back images from our fair and then a link to our directory. And that's our new Instagram. Is it a handle on Instagram? Oh, yeah, so we now have a handle. We are at Brooklyn North High Schools on Instagram. Thank you so much. Always great to be here with you guys. And I know we started the meeting with holiday wishes, but this is ours. And something that I've been thinking a lot about with my team is, the holidays land differently, and we have, especially in the past recent years, we have families that have lost and we'll have empty chairs at the holiday tables. So we bring you all the love of the Brooklyn North High School District. And thank you.
Thank you so much.
If the council members have any questions?
I do. Thanks so much, as usual, for your presentation. I will definitely be sure to add those requests to our SCA capital plan list that because we list everything and we give it to the SCA, not just the top 5 that we sort of vote on. But my question is, does the citywide high school council also do their own list?
Haven't heard from them, so I'm not sure. It has not been on their agenda.
Well, that's disappointing. But do they typically is that part of their purview? I'm not sure what their
No, but I think they're meeting tomorrow night, so.
Yeah. Do you?
Yeah.
And you go to those meetings? Oh, well, I think, share that with them too. Yeah. But we will definitely put those all on our list.
Thank you. And also extra thanks to you guys because you asked the question, we actually did the same work for all of our districts. So each of our CECs have our wish list. And
right.
They were like, how did you guys know we're doing this? And I'm like, this district 15 invited us.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I'm going to see if we have any members of the audience who would like to ask any questions. And great. I am going to ask the interpretation line. Any questions? Do we have any questions from the interpretation?
No questions on the Spanish line.
There is no question on the Mandarin line.
No questions on the Bengali line.
Not have any questions. So we have moving on.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. And now we wanted to see if we would, we wanted to allow for general public comment from our audience, both in person and on Zoom. So I will once again pass it to our parliamentarian.
As we mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we have allowed for respectful forum to conduct any questions or make any comments in relation to the district schools. We ask that you adhere to 1 minute for each comment. And we ask our members of the Zoom audience to raise their hands if they choose to ask any questions, but we're gonna start with the members that are in person. If we have any questions. Not seeing any questions. Gonna ask if there are any general questions from the Zoom audience. Not seeing any hands raised, I will ask if the interpretation line have any questions or comments as to any topic related to the district.
No questions or comments on the Spanish line.
There is no question or comments on the Mandarin line.
No questions on the Bengali line.
We do not have any other questions.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. We have reached the end of our agenda. Thank you so much for coming to our calendar meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, all right. At 8:18
At
PM, we
18.
are adjourning our calendar meeting, the last one of 2022. Thank you all so much for being with us, and momentarily we will start our business meeting. Thank you. To everybody in the room, there's food. So please dig in.
And this is
Wanna
Mandarin that we're
announce like a
speaking. Do we
5-minute
need to
food break or
stay on
something?
for
And we'll take
the,
a 5-minute food break.
do we need to stay on for the business portion of the meeting?
To everyone on our Zoom, we're taking a 5-minute break before beginning our. Oh, no, we're on your
I'm-
Zoom.
yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So I guess everybody heard. We're taking a 5-minute break before beginning our business meeting.
All right.
So Steve mentioned that the
And unmute. All right, you're live.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our CEC 15 business meeting. This is our final business meeting of 2022. I am Nancy Randall, co-vice president, filling in for our president Camille Casaretti today. And I would like to call this meeting to order at 8:31 p.m. And I will pass it over to Antonia Ferraro to call the roll.
Okay. Camille Casaretti is out. I'm Antonia Ferraro. I am here. Tia Shellsteed. Here. Vincent Liu is absent. Nana Poku Ajakum. Present. Alfred DeAngelis is absent. Joseph Alexander is absent. Ivan Banda is absent. Nancy Randall.
Present.
Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka. Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka. All right, I will just put her as late for the moment. And Nakeem Mahasa Brown is absent. Okay, we do not have quorum. So we cannot vote on anything. I will just say as a recording secretary, we cannot vote on the minutes. So we will have to move to the next agenda item.
The next agenda item is old business, the second review of the draft bylaws amendment on hybrid meetings. I would like to make a motion to postpone this review until we are able to have quorum.
Second.
I suppose we
don't have to,
we can't even vote on our motion.
No, just.
Therefore,
you have to
we
just
will be
postpone.
postponing the amendment, the review of the bylaws amendment on hybrid meetings until our next meeting. And does anyone have any new business?
I think the only new business would be to just stay tuned for a potential special session.
Yes.
Potentially before the 21st.
Yes. So we will be sending out information about a potential special session, as Antonia said, before the 21st. Okay, with that, I would like to adjourn this meeting at 8:33 p.m. Thank you all so much for coming.
Oh God, was that not on? Oh my God, I think we have to do that entire thing over again.
Well, were you all able to hear us?
I don't
Yes,
think
we
anybody
heard.
was.
We were here, we hear you. Antonia, I'm on this. Elizabeth.
Oh my God.
We heard you.
Were you all able to hear us?
Can you hear me?
I can't.
Elizabeth Garraway, I heard you.
You heard us?
Yes.
Okay, then we're good.
Yeah, I think it was on because I heard everything you said.
Okay, good. Oh
Thank
my
you for
God.
coming today, Antonia. See, good thing I'm here tonight.
What did she say? Who's that? Who's talking?
Thank you all.
Oh, Elizabeth Garraway.
Thank you. All right, good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye.
No, that's muted. See, that's on. Oh my God.